This is so close. This is all right.
Good morning. If you're just joining us, we're going to get started in just about a few minutes. We're going to let the attendees come in. Good morning, participants. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. Okay, it is 10:01, so let's get started this morning. Good morning. My name is Lauren Baines. I'm VP of Portfolio over at 43North. Welcome to our 7th installment of the Small Business School. We've had a lot of great experts on talking about different ways to help grow your business, especially in a kind of unique climate that we're all dealing with. And this morning, we are very fortunate to have a 28-year news veteran on to talk a little bit about how to be a PR pro. So I'd like to introduce Joanna Pasceri, who will be our presenter this morning. Quick ground rules before we get started. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and pop them into the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen feed. We'll answer those, get to as many as we possibly can. Do not use the chat feature. We won't be monitoring that. So Joanna, you can take it from here.
Okay, so I will see those questions.
I will read them. Yep.
Oh, okay, great.
Yep.
Thanks. Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us on this snowy Tuesday morning. This is a little weird for me. This is my first presentation on Zoom. I'm used to having you all in a room, and I would have loved to have met you and had you tell a little bit about your stories, and then I could kind of intertwine it in here. But, you know, this is the world we're in right now. I want to thank Lauren and the folks over at 43 North for all they do to help lift up our business community, and thanking them for letting me do this presentation for you today. Hopefully you'll learn a thing or two, and by the time we're done, you'll be on your way to being a PR pro and you'll be able to advance your business. So let's get right into it. A little bit about my background. If some of you are local and have been around for a long time, you may recall that I was an anchor, reporter, producer at Channel 7 for over 20 years. I was in television news for 28 years. And so most recently, I was the primary co-anchor of Eyewitness News. And I also served as MC at a lot of events and galas over the years. I taught public speaking at Medaille College, and one thing about Medaille that I think is great is that they require all of their students to take public speaking to get their degree, and I think that's a smart thing to do because it's so important. No matter what field you're in, you should have some public speaking skills. So there's my little plug for Medaille College. After my TV career, I spent a couple of years as the first ever public information officer for the Erie County District Attorney. I spent over 2 years at the Amherst Chamber of Commerce, heading up communications and marketing. And that's where I started working with a lot of small businesses, and I started to understand some of your needs. And now I work with O'Donnell and Associates. It's a government relations firm working with large and small businesses. And throughout my career after TV, I was advising and assisting businesses, clients, and even the firms that I worked for with PR and media matters. So here's a quick outline of what we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to talk about public speaking, and that's how to create a memorable, impactful speech or presentation. That's always good to have a background of that, even if you don't do a lot of public speaking. Then we'll parlay that right into public relations, what's newsworthy, how to write a news release, who do you pitch it to, and then we'll go over some PR wins and losses for businesses. And then we'll touch on how to be media savvy a little bit. why you should talk to the media, what the media needs, how to act, what to say, even how to look. It's really important. I mean, for many, many years in television, people really do focus on the look. It's a visual medium. It's sometimes unfair and sometimes unfair toward women, but especially, it's part of what it's all about. So we'll talk about all those things and we'll have a little fun with it. Hopefully you'll think it's fun. So public speaking like a pro, build confidence. We want to start there because public speaking for a lot of people is what they fear more than death. That is a fact. So you want to be able to be confident when you have to do it. I know nobody loves, putting themselves out there sometimes. I mean, some people are completely comfortable with it, but a lot of us have hesitancies. We don't want to be judged. We feel like we're all out there. So here are some ways that you can, build some confidence heading into that. Obviously talk about what you know. Sharing your expertise always goes well. And you all have a story. It's there. Think about it. And it's probably very interesting. Preparation is so very important. It helps you stay on track. Avoiding tangents when you're talking, rehearse. Sometimes it can get weird for people, but what we used to do in TV is we used to just literally read the scripts aloud. So you'd walk in the newsroom and everybody would be reading to their computers, because I mean, that's how you prepare and rehearse. Because when you get on the air, you've gone through the script. There's not going to be anything that's going to trip you up. You don't want to be stumbling all over the place. It's important. It looks kind of goofy. You might feel a little weird, but rehearsal is very important. That deep breath sometimes, it can really relax you. Before I used to go live, I used to sometimes take a deep breath if I was coming, especially from a breaking news story, and I was had a lot of adrenaline. That breath, that deep breath sometimes really relaxes you. And it's all in your mind too, visualize success. If you go up there and you're thinking that you're not going to make it and you're going to fail and people are going to, judge you, whatever, it won't help the whole process. So you got to be confident. You got to know, I can do this, right? So when you're preparing a speech, the most critical thing is knowing your audience. The best way I could describe is if you're going to speak to a PETA seminar, you don't want to wear your real fur coat and talk about how much you love your fur coat. Okay. You want to address what the audience wants to hear. You don't want to, turn them off or anything. So you want to know who's out there, what they need to know so that they're interested and not obviously turned off or, offended by what you say. So this will determine every aspect in planning your speech. And think about, who are they? What kind of topics or stories would be interesting to them? Once you decide, what they need and what you want to talk about, make sure it's a single idea. I'm talking one idea, because anything more will just get too hard to follow. And think about your purpose too. Are you addressing a purpose? What's your why? Again, one why. And all of that should be incorporated into an intro, a body, and a conclusion. And what we always used to say in TV, basically every story is based on this. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And that way it'll be easy for them to follow and you won't lose everybody. So you're starting to sit down and write your speech. The introduction is really important. I like, to make it a real feel-good moment. This is where I think you establish your likability. People want to say, I like this person. I'm going to listen to what they say. They're nice. They told a funny joke. Make it clean. Or they were so nice and, they thanked everybody. I thought it was very, classy. And then you set up your topic. I mean, I think that's the time, don't dive right into it. Show a little bit of your personality and people can then connect with you and then make you more believable, really. So you're sitting down to write your speech now, the body of the speech, the bulk of it, you're building your case and you have all this supporting material, arrange your ideas with proper flow. Try not, one idea should kind of fall into a next idea. They shouldn't just come in from nowhere or just out of nowhere, just have a nice little flow of thoughts. I can't say this enough. Personal stories are great. Now, this doesn't mean, you get up and you say, well, I was born in 1965. We don't want your life story, but there are little, parts of your life experiences that you could share that really, connect and hold interest. I remember when I was teaching at Madai, the students had to do speeches, and there was this one student got up there and he was not prepared. I could tell, he had no notes. He seemed like he was going to wing it. And I thought, oh my God, this is not going to go well. But he got up there and he talked about a family member who was murdered in gun violence. And it was from the heart, the whole speech. It was so real, raw, impactful. I gave him an A. I mean, it might not have been as polished as some of the other students who prepared, but it was just a wonderful story. And well, it wasn't a wonderful story. I apologize for that. It was a terrible story, but it was a wonderful way for him to show what was going on in his life and how he handled it and how his family handled it. And it was riveting, frankly. And so, little stories like that sometimes can just go a long way. If you sound too factual and you're just spewing facts, you're going to lose them. Sprinkle in a little humor. Everybody loves to laugh, obviously, unless it's not, a funny situation that you're talking about. A lot of people love, show things, visuals, video. Those are great. Just make sure if you're going to show visuals, everybody can see them clearly, and it's obvious and not, hidden, that, it kind of distracts more than it enhances. Videos are great too, but just make sure everything just doesn't last too long, because it's people have short attention spans and they're getting shorter every day, I'm finding. So also throw in some audience interaction, unless of course you're on Zoom right now. Well, we can't have a lot of that, but how many of you have been to the movies or something like that? That's always nice. It keeps everybody involved. Here's some housekeeping things like round up numbers. Don't make your audience do math. Use conversational language, layman's terms. No, don't go inside ball too much. Watch the acronyms unless they're well-known ones, because people, by the time they stop and think of what you're trying to say, you'll lose them. Short, powerful statements or sentences. You really, grammar doesn't, not that you don't want to sound professional, but grammar can take a back seat. You can do a lot of short, powerful statements, as long as it's flowing for the ear, because you're writing for the ear, not the eye. So if you think about it, if you're reading a newspaper and you don't get something, what do? You just go back and reread it, right? Well, you can't do that when someone's speaking to you. And if they don't understand what you're saying, or you throw them off with something, well, it's lost and it's gone. So you want to make sure you keep their attention and they're following along with you. And then you get to your conclusion. That's the takeaway. What do you want them to remember? A call to action. Is there something you want them to do after you've made your speech? I often try to bring it right back to the intro in some way. It's like the circle theory, and tie it up with a nice little bow. And of course, make time for questions, which we will be doing here as well if you have any. So once you have your speech developed, as I talked about earlier, rehearsing it is really important. We all have one of these phones now that let us do video. Record yourself. You can really get a great look at how you're going to be looking and sounding, and or do it in a mirror, or just do it wherever you can. Just keep talking through your scripts. And I always try to, if I'm reading a script, I like to be prepared with a script or something similar, like an outline. A lot of people can talk off the cuff, but look for ways that you can, if you're reading from a script, look for ways that you can make some eye contact with the audience. And sometimes I even mark it on a script, like here's a good pause in my script. Right here, I'm going to look up and make sure I'm, making some eye contact with my audience. Make any adjustments to the script when you're rehearsing it. We used to say in TV, a mistake on the script is a stumble on the air. Difficult words to say. One of those famous ones for us, for me anyway, was posthumously. A really difficult word to say, but a lot of people put it in scripts and television. People got awards, after death, he received that award posthumously. Well, when you're reading in the prompter and you're going, you got a flow going, and all of a sudden that word pops up and like your whole mouth, you're like, whoa, I gotta wait, posthumously. That's one of those words you got to take a second to say. Try to avoid, any tricky words that aren't gonna flow. So, little adjustment. Oh, this word's a little tough to say. I'm going to use a different word so that I can go through that smoothly. I always, in my scripts, I also print them in capital letters with plenty of spacing to see. Know your environment. I know now in our world, we're just mostly virtual, but if you are doing a speech, know what the podium looks like, where's the microphone, how is it lit? Once, I forgot my glasses, my cheaters, and I was like, it was kind of dimly lit, and I was like, oh my God, I could barely see my script here. So knowing your environment is really important too once you are doing your speech. So here are some pitfalls that come up when you are public speaking. Information overload. This is a common one. People just say too much. It's just on and on and on and tangents. And it's hard for people to follow. I'm sure you've been to many events where you said, that was great, but about 10 minutes too long, and there's distractions sometimes, the waitress that, drops the tray of glasses in the back, and, what I say, always mention it and bring your audience back like, oh, well, looks like we got clean up in aisle 4. And then, bring everybody back to your speech. When you try to ignore like major distractions, people are like, what's going on here? You can't help it. They take you away from your speech. They take people away from your speech. You want to bring them back. So address them. And the other problem that is common too is just getting nervous and talking a little bit too quickly. So I always say, go slower than feels right, because, people are, again, trying to follow you. You're talking for the ear. So a little slower, no, not too slow. It's kind of a nice medium there. But, a little slower than you probably think is comfortable. So now we're going to move into public relations. Okay, now that we've got our public speaking out of the way. What's newsworthy? Well, it's really easy. It's right in the word. Anything new. I always say, that's when people say, well, what do you want? What do you guys decide to do to get stuff on the news? Well, it's right in the word, new news. Okay. So anything new, a grand opening of a business, a new product or service that's unique. Now I have a few examples here that I'm going to show you of how these businesses got in the news because they had something new or different or unique. So let me get let me go back up there. Keeps doing that. Okay, so here's an example of North Park Theater. A theater, there's lots of them, nothing really particularly newsworthy at, a theater because there's a lot of them, but look at, they're now offering private movie screenings. So it's got that new, unique difference. It's got kind of a COVID connection because, people are, can't be out with other people. And so how about this? They've got an offer for you. The theater is renting out its auditorium to a limited number of movie fans. So in this situation, they got the attention of Channel 4 because it kind of addresses COVID. It's a unique twist on a movie theater. So that is how, they got some attention there. It's new and different. Now, the other example I have here is from Peak and Peak Resort. Again, a ski place, nothing unique. There's Kissing Bridge, there's Holiday Valley. Why would, we put them on the news? Well, look what they're doing. They're doing lunar tubing. So this is tubing that goes on all night long, like at midnight, different, unique. Not everybody offers this. And, so this caught the attention of Channel 2, I see here, for skiers and snowboarders, look at, we got the Peak and Peak operations manager saying we have music playing real loud all night long. It's a good environment for younger people, probably. But you see what I mean there. Something very unique and different at a place that does a very typical thing. If Peak and Peak were to call the news and say, hey, we're offering skiing, we're offering tubing, That's nice, but we're not going to come down unless, it's something that, it is different and unique. Also, anything timely, obviously, that also plays into the news part. So if we look at this example that I got from a marketing blog, Dunkin' Donuts, let me get off that little X that out. Dunkin' Donuts offering drive-through weddings for Valentine's Day. Well, that's very unique. How many times can you get married in a drive-through at Dunkin' Donuts? That's not a usual thing. So they got a lot of attention for doing this. And, Valentine's Day is one of those things that if you can put a little spin on it, we're always looking for light, happy ways to celebrate Valentine's Day and share stories that interest people. So here's a good example of how they're going to get tons of publicity as they marry people through the drive-through for Valentine's Day. So that's learning to be timely. Dunkin' Donuts is good at that. And you know who else is really great at that locally? Is Paula's Donuts. They really know how to be timely about things. And as you can see here from this tweet, when it pops up, you'll see that this was back in our Bills days. They had the Bills donuts, all in the blue and red, and they offered a contest, and you'll get a free dozen donuts if you check out our contest on the Facebook page. All of this just very timely, tapping into, I mean, obviously not timely right now, but it was at the time when we were, proceeding, getting close to the Super Bowl chance there. So another good example of how, you're going to attract attention when you can, show something unique, different that's going on that responds to what everybody's talking about, Also, what's newsworthy, sorry, that keeps popping up there. Anything visual. TV stations, newspaper photographers love anything that's visual. Sometimes, you can just say, I've got this really cool, whatever, sculpture at the Albright Knox, and come take a picture of it for your picture page. All of the TV stations and the newspaper like to have those special pictures. And another important component is giving back, a charitable contribution. The media is more apt to cover it if you have a charitable angle to anything that you're doing. You're helping other people. When you're doing something that just helps your business, they're going to direct you to the advertising department. Okay. So try to have something that also gives back to the community. It comes back to you too, because it shows that you care about the community, and it's good for your business, but it's also good that you can share some of what you're doing with people who need it. So now we're going to get into, okay, you've decided you're doing something unique and you just want to spread the word. So you want to write a news release. They're not hard at all. It's really simple. I think it's really important that you have your logo on the top. As you can see in the one picture I have, this is the picture I have on the screen is the one I had done for O'Donnell and Associates. You've got your logo on there, a catchy title. Try to, be catchy with that, because the TV stations and the other media, they have about 5 seconds. We look at your news release, and in about 5 seconds, we have to make a determination of whether this is something we want to take a second look at, so you got to grab attention with it. It's really simple with the 5 W's, who, what, where, when, and why. Keep it to one page, several pages, will get distracting to a lot of people, and it's hard for us to get to the point when we're reading through several pages. Include some quotes, that describe your feelings of the situation. Leave the facts for the actual news release, but your quote should be something that comes from the heart, like an emotional feeling about what you're writing about. And you'd be surprised how many people send in news releases that don't have contact information on them, or even all the event information. We'd be like, oh, this is a great event. Oh, wait, they never told us where it was. Oh my goodness. Wait, is there a number on here? You'd be surprised. And it does help to have someone else look it over after you've written it, because sometimes you get in that zone. I've done it myself, and you've forgotten something, and it takes somebody else to notice it. Here's another example of a news release I wrote. for the Amherst Chamber, that this is a little bit more of a style that you might be a little more comfortable doing. Just simply the who, what, where, when. And if there is a why, you can put a why in there, but putting in some quotes and things like that. But this is just a real basic thing, and then with a logo and a really catchy title, well, that will get you noticed. So let's now go to pitching that news release. So again, here we are with that audience, who is going to be interested in what you're selling. You need to find somebody who is actually interested, what type of reporter, what type of media outlet. You need to find the expert. And I think if you're interested in, selling your business or getting it out there in the media, you really have to follow the local media. You need to get to know the reporters. What kind of stories do they write about? What's their beat? Especially if they're, if you're a restaurant, you should really be following, Andy Galarno at the Buffalo News, who does, food reviews, and you should be reading your Gusto and all the other publications that, address restaurants and things like that. So I've just listed a few of the media outlets in the Buffalo area here that I always pitch to. The Buffalo News, Business First, 2, 4, and 7, Spectrum News, WBEN actually has even a little business report they do, WBFO, Buffalo Rising, Buffalo Spree. The B newspapers are great for this. They always are looking for content and are really, really kind to small businesses in their community. So make sure that you know the editor of the B in your community, because they are great friends to have. They really go out of their way to help the smaller businesses. And then there's your special sections, like I said, the Gusto, which is entertainment and food. Refresh is the health segment in the Buffalo News that comes on Saturdays. Healthy Living is like a monthly health oriented magazine. Then there's Forever Young that deals with the older set. There's a lot of publications out there, and get to know what they are. Now, if you do know where you want to pitch it, you just don't know who to do it to or who to pitch it to, I've come up with a way to help you find that information. So if you're at the Buffalo News and you go to their Contact Us page, okay, and you scroll down, okay, there's advertising and marketing, but you don't really need that as much unless you want to advertise. But here's your newsroom. Here's your editor, here's your managing editor. Oh, here's your city desk. Now, this is where you would put generic news releases to the Buffalo News, city desk at buffnews.com. But let's say you have something specific. Well, here's all your reporter emails. And sometimes it's better to pitch this to an individual reporter because it's not getting in the big pile. It's going to, a specific reporter. So these are the people that mostly do breaking news and hard news. There's a Lockport Bureau right there, Tom Prohaska, he's a good guy. And as we keep going, we see that Steve Watson does Amherst development. So if you've got development things going on in Amherst, you might want to pitch a story to him. Here's your business reporters and all their emails. Here's your features, your Gusto editor, your Refresh editor, your content coordinator for Gusto, your food and restaurants, your home and style for Susan Martin there. And there's your sports. So they're right there on the Contact Us page are all the emails you need to find right there for you. And then let's say you want to go to a TV station. So you go to the Contact Us page for WIVB. This is channel 4. And if you just scroll down a little bit here, they have all their emails as well here. This is your generic email for the newsroom at wivb.com. You have your call for action here. And so this is where you would send a release here. But let's say you want to send it to a specific reporter. And I've done that here on WGRZ. Go to their Meet the Team. Every every TV station has a Meet the Team page. And when you get on there, you will see that you have all your talent here. There's your main anchors. And if you click on one of them, let's say you want to talk to Kelly, if you scroll down on her bio, you should find an email, and there it is. There's her email right there if you want to send her an email and pitch a story directly to her. So that's pretty simple. Now, what else to consider? The morning television newscasts, they always do light featurey things, and they're always looking for content, especially on the weekends. If you got something going on, pitch it to them. How can it hurt? And also get to know the special segments on these TV stations. Channel 4 has Mel's Mutts, Good News with Gabby's, Buffalo's Best, Buffalo Behind the Scenes. Channel 7 has AM Buffalo. That I think might be some paid segments though. Hiring 716, Rebound. Channel 2 has Community, Most Buffalo, and I think Western New York Living is paid. And here's an example of a Good News with Gabby segment that I found. The Central Rock Gym, which is a indoor rock climbing business, they got on Good News with Gabby because they're offering these socially distanced climbs, which is kind of COVID related. But what else was good about them pitching this story is they pitched it over, sorry, there's going to be an ad in there. They pitched it over a break, a school break. So, they, probably called up Gabby, wrote her an email and said, listen, we're doing socially distanced rock climbs for all the parents out there are looking for things to do that are safe with their kids over, I think it was Christmas vacation, if I look at the date. So know that their wall is really interesting, and they're like, oh, Gabby, we're gonna hook you up and you're gonna go do the wall. Oh my God, this is gonna be visual too. So, we help our viewers by, we show something interesting. Well, Gabby's gonna actually climb the wall, and then we're gonna talk about how it's safe for COVID and how you can do this with your kids over break. All that makes for a perfect morning show segment. And look at the coverage they got for Barry. All those markers. So very cool. And there's Gabby. She's a really nice girl too. So, and as I said before, the newspaper photographer, you might want to just pitch a picture sometimes, that can give you a lot of exposure if you have something very cool that you want to show. And why not just ask one of the photographers, get their email from that contact us page on the Buffalo News, and say, hey, I've got this really neat thing that I think would be great for your picture section. Or they also have the smile section. Now, they don't probably do that as much now because there's no events going on. But when you have an event, invite the smile photographer when we all get back. That's hope. And have them come and take pictures of the people who come to your events. It's fun, and it gives you a lot of great exposure. So now we're going to talk about, a win and a loss as far as PR. And we're going to start with the win. And again, I'm bringing out Paula's Donuts here. This is an example of how Paula's Donuts took a great cause, the Girl Scouts, a popular cookie, the Girl Scout cookies, and a great program for young girls, put it all into one to get a great story and tons of people coming to their business. So I'm going to click on this right now. This ran on the Channel 2 morning show with Lauren Hall. And we'll play this a little bit. I think it's too long. Let's see. Sorry, it's a little slow today, the internet.
Hey there, we're Brooklinen. We're working from our homes to make the most comfortable things for yours, like sheets, towels, and loungewear. All with free delivery to your door and backed by 100. Talk
welcome back, everybody. 6:43 now on Daybreak, and it's time to celebrate Western New York with a sweet treat. You've probably seen it on social media already. This new collaboration with Paula's Donuts and the Girl Scouts that brings the iconic cookies into donut form. And Daybreak's Lauren Hall is live this morning with more details on the collab and how you can support the Western New York Girl Scouts. Hey, Lauren, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Melissa. Well, today is the last day to try one of these Paula's Donuts Girl Scout cookie inspired treats, and half the proceeds from all of the sales will go right back to the Girl Scouts and help girls join the Scouts this fall. Again, you probably
Looks like we had some technical difficulties. Hold on one second. Well, we can start to answer some of the questions. So one of the attendees asked, will you be giving virtual tips as well? So when it comes to doing a virtual presentation, I can certainly speak to some of the tips for that. I think what Joanna outlined is definitely relevant to virtual speeches, virtual presentations and things like that, but maybe some additional items that you should be thinking about is your background. If you can see here, we had a background made with our brand on it for 43North. So always obviously pushing that brand. You also want to be in a well-lit area. Make sure that your laptop can show your entire face. You know, you see a lot of these, which are not great presentation styles. And one nice trick that we've discovered throughout COVID is taking a big textbook, putting it under your laptop, and that'll actually give you a more elevated view of your face and allow participants to see you a little bit better. Obviously, checking Wi-Fi is going to be also super helpful because sometimes we can lose connection, and that can be a challenge for sure. In terms of virtual presentations, kind of depends. There's two different types. So sometimes you can see the participants and they can participate with you and ask questions, asking those questions. And sometimes it's like a presentation like this where there's just too many people for everyone to be shown. And there's a Q&A feature that is really great to use through Zoom. In terms of the different platforms to use, Zoom is probably one of the easiest and lightest because you don't have to download really heavy software to use it. But Google Meet is also a free video platform that you can use to do some virtual presentations if that should be helpful to your business. Another question that was asked was talking a little bit about negative media, and I think Joanna's going to get to that when she's able to hop back on. But yes, it is very true that typically those negative stories tend to get the most attention, and the positive ones are much more difficult to get coverage on. And so one of the great pieces of advice that Joanna and other media experts have always expressed to me is, you know, the positive stories. Oh, looks like we have Joanna back.
I'm sorry, did that cut me out?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think it might have been a network issue.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No
All
problem.
right. So let me share the screen again. I'm like, that's very weird. Okay. So let me just, well, actually, I'll have to hit that from current slide, then I'll go like that. Okay, is everybody back? Are we back here?
Yeah, everyone's on. It's just I think sometimes with the internet connection and the videos, it can be too much.
Oh, and it just cut me out.
It just cuts you off. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Apologize for that. So now you saw that it was a great example of how Paula's Donuts, you know, took Girl Scouts, an entrepreneurship program, you know, a cookie that everybody loves, and made it into a donut. And then, you know, there you go. So a great example of a PR win. One that was a little more challenging was, if you recall, a couple, like a year ago, I think now, the big immigration debate with Lloyd Taco. You know, they apologized for serving lunch outside of a federal detention center in Batavia where undocumented immigrants were being held. And then somebody said something about them being there and they immediately reacted and said they were sorry. And then it was the apology for the apology. So this is kind of a situation that you don't really want to get in as a business because, you know, it's a great business, Lloyd Taco, and yet they got kind of in the middle of the audio out of here. And hopefully we don't get knocked out. Here's the Lloyd Taco. I don't know. I feel like that's working. Okay, there it is. It's just a struggle today, I think. Anyway,
I think you have to go on the other tab.
yeah, got it. Sorry, it was covered. Okay.
Very frustrating to be on an emotional roller coaster.
There's going to be a lot of people that will be
Yeah,
entering unemployment.
7 Eyewitness News is committed to finding solutions.
Olivia Proya walks you through what you need to do if you find yourself filing for unemployment.
Any questions?
Tonight, Lloyd Taco, a popular food truck, is now trying to clear up the controversy it dished out last week. The company first apologized for serving a federal detention facility, but now it's walking that back, saying Lloyd does not take sides. Today's statement from Lloyd sparked a discussion on social media. Hundreds of people are now weighing in on the WKPW Facebook page. One immigration advocate tells 7 Eyewitness News reporter Taylor Epps, this is a chance to raise awareness.
It all started last week when owners of Lloyd Taco said, "We're sorry." Now they're apologizing for that apology.
Chris and I want to fully and sincerely apologize for our past statement after our truck's visit to the Federal Detention Center in Batavia last Wednesday.
This comes after business took a hit.
The last 5 days have been exceptionally challenging. We had 3 truck visits cancel on us.
And 7 Eyewitness News viewers sharing their thoughts on our Facebook page.
We were not prepared for the anger directed at us. It was surprising and demoralizing.
Executive Director of Justice for Migrant Families, Jennifer Connor, says she was disappointed to hear about Monday's newest development.
Lloyd and every business needs to be clear on their values.
But Zamino says he's not in the business of making policy.
But we want to emphasize that we don't take sides. That's what people did in social and traditional media in the last few days.
Since this latest apology, some people say they're tired of hearing about this. Jason says now they're apologizing for the apology. Oh boy. Sue says it's all a big to-do about something that's not very important. But others are glad owners have spoken up. Michelle says it's more than most people do when they regret a decision they've made. And Connor feels this could be a good thing.
I think that we need to shed more light on immigrant detention. I actually think that's a huge positive that could come out of this situation.
Lloyd Taco says it will be donating to Justice for Migrant Families. Connor says the money will be used to help those in the Batavia Detention Center get better food. In Buffalo, Taylor Epps, 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, so in that situation, there is that one woman on there who said that she feels, you know, you should say something about that. You know, you should say what your values are. That's entirely up to you as business owners. I would say if you do that, you know that you will alienate some people. So is that gonna, there we go. So my suggestion to you is probably stay out of the political arena if you don't want to have it backfire and, you know, affect your business. But again, it's your business. But I like how Lloyd, you know, kind of turned it around and, you know, they actually got out of that pretty well after some really some bad weeks of publicity that turned into kind of firestorm. So that's just, you know, advice there. Probably stay out of the political arena if you don't want to alienate customers. So let's now parlay into media savvy here. Why should you talk to the media? Well, if they're asking you, I mean, sometimes they actually knock on your door and say, we want to talk, to you. And I say, do it, if it's for something that means something to you. Like I said, especially women and minorities here who are underrepresented in media today. It gives better substance to stories when people who are experts enlighten the public and have their voice out there. If you do have a crisis, like in the case of the Lloyd Taco, it's good to get out in front of it. The advice I've always heard is, talk unless, you're getting arrested, then don't talk. Okay. But nothing stops an issue from getting out of hand in media than a comment from the people involved. It just puts it to rest a lot of times. Sometimes the media just needs a comment, even if it's that you can't comment and the reason why or something like that. Get out of your comfort zone. It gets easier every time. Don't be intimidated. You know the issue better than the reporter. You're enlightening the community and the reporter most of the time. And of course, when they're doing an interview, the camera is not live. It'll be edited. And I always took great pains to make sure that my interviewees were always looked well and had a great image out there. I never tried to make anybody look bad in the editing process. So I think most reporters are like that too. And having said all of that, it is not for everybody. I mean, some people just can't do it. So if you're not, you're one of those people that just cannot talk out there for your company, find somebody in your company who is. There's somebody in every company that is a good talker and comfortable and would be a good representation of your business. So what does the media need when you do an interview? Well, they need nuggets of information, not a dissertation. Just everything's quick. We have about a minute 30 at the most to do a story, oftentimes in television, and even content in newspaper is curtailed. You always have an editor cutting things down. So just give them, nuggets of what's going on. You don't have to go on and on. Don't get too in the weeds, because then that's how you lose people. Again, conversational, speak that way, no inside language or acronyms. One important thing is accessibility. The easier to connect with you, the more often you're going to be contacted by the media. If they know you're going to pick up, they're going to call you, because, usually we're always on tight deadlines. I mean, I know when I was at the chamber, a lot of reporters would call me and they were looking for small businesses. And I'd say, okay, I'll see if I can get a hold of these people. And, we were in the COVID situation, and I know a lot of people weren't open, but I would call their business phone and no one was checking that. No one had a way of having, messages transferred to them if they weren't open. And that got a little, discouraging, because a lot of these businesses could have been on the news that night had they, forwarded messages from their business or checked it often. So, accessibility is very important, along with timeliness. Like I said, we have those quick deadlines. They can't wait 2 days or 3 days, just a few hours at the most, if they need to talk to you. So, if you pick up, you can't say, okay, yeah, I'd love to talk to you. What are you doing on Friday? Well, no, today's the news. We want to do it today. By Friday, we're going to be on to something different. You got to be able to say, sure, come on over, give me an hour, and then, it'll all work out. And then, you might get a second or third or even more than that call. Story planning is occasionally done in advance on special reports, but most often media is reacting to news of the day. And if by any chance you can talk about the news of the day, contact the media. Let them know you can provide expert analysis on whatever's happening in the news. Let's say you're a law firm specializing in a topic that's making news. Well, shoot them, an email and say, hey, I'm an attorney that covers this topic, and I'd be happy to talk to you if you need an expert on it. If you do that right away, chances are they're going to look at that and go, oh, here's somebody that'll talk about it. This is something easy and quick. Go give them a call, and interview them. So how do you act when you're being interviewed? Cool, confident, human, not robotic. Show some compassion and emotion. This is how you connect with the audience. Your comments will have more impact and will be more memorable and will create a positive reaction toward you and your view if you are compassionate and you speak of not just facts, but feelings and how people can connect to what you're saying. Again, though, with the warning here, don't get too emotional, because if you're overly mad, sad, or glad, all that kind of over the top kind of emotion will distract from the message. And a lot of people ask this question. You look at the reporter asking questions, not the camera. So what to say and how to say it concisely as possible. Again, as I said, don't get into the weeds. Don't go on and on. Try to encapsulate it. Have a common sense approach to the issue. Be memorable. Think of interesting stories you can share that the reporter can share with the audience. As I said, all of you have a story of how you started your business, and it may seem mundane to you, but I think a lot of people find it interesting that people start businesses and why they do it. There's always a neat little story underneath all of that. Be prepared of what you want to say, practice what you want to say. I always say prepared, preparation, practice, all of that. As I mentioned earlier, we are always reading aloud our scripts to prepare for the newscasts. That will help you be more confident. And of course, the more interviews you do, the better you will get. Here's some pitfalls of saying nothing on something that might be, a little bit more intense. Perception that you're hiding from something, perception that you're covering up. You hear it in the news all the time. We tried to talk to, the governor about that, but, he wasn't taking questions, and sometimes now they can make a whole story around people who are not responding. It's called gotcha journalism, and where you're entrapping people who are not cooperating. Not my favorite version of it, of journalism, but it's used and it's getting more and more popular. And with social media now, they're putting it on social media, and they're, saying you're not speaking, and they're doing whole stories saying that you're not speaking. So if something comes up that's a little more intense with your business, my suggestion is to, if you can, just give them a response, even if it's, I can't respond for these particular reasons, but, sometimes just ignoring the calls is not helpful. They kind of turn that into something that would not be favorable. And also, as I said there, media controls info, not you. If you don't contribute, then they'll start saying whatever they want to say, whatever they can come up with, or start interviewing people that you don't want to talk on your behalf. And finally, how to look, as we talked about the visual aspects of being on TV. I think I covered up Amy Robach there. She's always one of my favorites. Her hair always looks very nice. And Lester Holt is always looking neat. Appropriate dress for your business. I mean, if you don't wear a suit every day to the office, then you don't need to have a suit on. As long as it's neat and clean and appropriate to your business, that's perfect. Try not to wear anything distracting, big jewelry, your, messy hair, kind of comb your hair down. And, if you're selling big jewelry, well, then by all means, put on big jewelry. So there are, always exceptions to these rules. For women, makeup, I suggest, emphasizing your eyes or your lips, but not both, because sometimes that can look a little over made up. If you're using a dark eyeliner on your lid, a little lighter one below so that it's not so heavy. Yes, men wear makeup in TV. Yes, they do. And mostly it's to prevent a shine or a 5 o'clock shadow. And there's lots of translucent or HD powders out there that you can put on to make sure that you're not all shiny. If you're wearing a suit, not too big or boxy, not too tight. Dark suits, avoid the color brown. It's just not as complimentary on TV. Women in suits, bright shirts are great. Men, bright ties are great. I like white shirts for men because I'm old school. And if you see some of the old time journalists and anchormen, they always wear a white shirt. I know dark shirts are in, and you don't always need a tie. Maybe a dark shirt with just a suit coat is fine. everything.
Joanna, we have a couple questions coming in and just a few
Okay.
minutes left.
Sure.
So I wanted to maybe get to a few questions before we close for the day.
Sure.
One of the questions is, what is the best time of day to send a press release?
Oh, that's a great one. I'm sorry I didn't get to that. I would say morning. We have a morning meeting about, and all of the media outlets will have some sort of morning meeting between, let's say, 9:30 and 10:30. And so that's when the assignment editor will bring all the press releases to the meeting and say, this is what we got on this, and discuss it. So if you can get it in before 9, that's always great. Then we do an afternoon meeting. So if something that's happening maybe later in the day, that usually happens around 3 or 3:30. So that's another opportunity. If you miss the 9 a.m. deadline, make sure they have it like right after the noon news so that it can make the afternoon meeting. But I would say by then, a lot of the day is set, unless there's breaking news. So I would say early morning is the best. And should you do it a few days ahead of time? You could. And then do a reminder day of, if you feel like you want them to know ahead of time. But if it works that they know that day, that's always good too, because day of decisions are made a lot. It's kind of like, how's the day going to go? Sometimes if you know too far in advance, it gets lost. So if you're going to do it in advance, then I would remind them day of.
And what about certain days of the week? Are there better days of the week than others?
You know, it's hard to tell because it all can depend on breaking news. I think, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to say, probably later in the week is always a little better because there's a lot of news conferences earlier in the week that they have to cover. A lot of governmental stuff is done, usually on a Monday or a Tuesday. Things happen all the time and every day, so you can't really say for sure. I guess just know that if, let's say, the governor's going to do the state of the state on a Thursday, you probably don't want to hit them on a day like that, they're going to be covering a big event or, election day or something like that, when they're going to be busy on something. You may not want to pick those days when they're going to have a lot of heavy news going on, and then sometimes it's breaking. So, you might plan something and then, there's a fire or something and then you won't be able to attend. It's a risk, but I would say try to judge the best you can, know what's going on that week.
One of the questions is, when speaking, because of being nervous, I speak too quickly and use too many pauses and verbal clutter. What is a good way to overcome this, especially how to eliminate verbal clutter?
I would say practice, even if you open a book and just read aloud and practice slowing yourself down to a comfortable level. You're pausing because you're nervous. Is that it?
Pauses and verbal clutter, things like,
you know what? Okay, the Toastmasters are not going to like me, but I'm going to tell you that ahs and ums do not bother me and most people who are listening, because it's natural. It's because we all do it. And I just did it. If you go into a Toastmasters, they'll train you. It's a great organization. Look into it. If you really want to perfect your public speaking skills, I would look into Toastmasters. I know the Amherst Chamber has a Toastmasters group. They count all those ums and ahs and, and I think, it's great if you can practice that and learn that, but I wouldn't get too hung up on it, because I think you don't even notice it sometimes, unless of course it's something you feel like is overdone. Like if you go after every other word. So when I go to the store, I have to bring a list. If you're doing that is distracting and you're going to have to try to break yourself from it. But if it's natural pausing, I wouldn't beat yourself up about it too much. Most people won't even realize it. It's natural. It's conversational. Think about it when you talk to your friend. You're ahing and umming all the time, and you're relaxed doing that. So wouldn't get too upset if it's an occasional and ah, but if you truly want to be a better speaker and you think you're doing it too much and you need to break your habit, practice, read out of a book, join the Amherst Chamber Toastmasters. They're a great group.
We just have time for one more question. Is it okay to just send, let's say it's an event like a ribbon cutting or an outdoor market. Is it okay just to send a flyer to media, or does it need to be in a more formal, like release type format?
No, I think if you have all the information on your flyer and you think it's attractive and will attract attention, it's fine. You know, like I said, we have like 5 or 10 seconds when we look at something to determine whether, you know, we're going to cover it or not. If it's very creative, it has all the information on it, and you like the way it looks, it's perfectly fine. If it's a lot of clutter and then we can't determine really what this event is, I wouldn't suggest it. But if it's done really well, sure. All we want to know is who, what, where, when, and why. And if you can say that as succinctly as possible, perfect. It's all the easier for them to look and make a decision quicker. And if they can make a quick decision and be attracted by what you show them, it's going to be positive.
That's great. Well, that is all the time we have today. We got a lot of comments from the participants that this was a super helpful webinar. It is recorded. It will be shared with you all on YouTube, so you can watch it again and watch those great clips. Thank you so much, Joanna, for this wealth of information, and thanks for all of our attendees.
You're welcome. And there's my email if anybody has any questions or, you know, want to follow up in any way. I'll be happy to help anybody.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Getting more comments saying thank you.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.